Welcome again to the Ultimate Power BI course. Right now, we would be talking about identifying data quality issues. One of the things you need to know as a data expert is that no matter like the theoretical things you've learned or you get like data on cargo or whatever platform, data in the real world is not clean. It's kind of messy. And we'll be walking through like what are some of like the data quality issues that you find in the real world, and also like what's the thought process as to how you would check the data quality, because it's basically garbage in, garbage out. If you put in like a bad data, you're going to have like bad analysis. So I'm going to explain to you like some of the principles to use, or what are the things you would have to factor in when you're looking at your data sets. And when we are thinking about data cleaning, the goal is not to clean all the data, it's just to clean the things that you would be requiring or using for your analysis. So let's dive right into it. So like still the same thing where we opened our original data set. We already loaded data already in the previous video in Power BI, and we just want to like explore our data to be sure like everything is okay. So I click on this and I'm just going to come to the table view. So from the table view, one of the things you could start to see is just look at this like table. So you can actually look at this data from Excel, or like from, let's say, SQL or something. There are some of the cleaning that I'm going to be doing here that is way easier to do them in SQL. That is, if you're bringing your data from SQL, or it's even way easier to just do control find and replace in Excel, right? Compared to doing it in Power BI. But we are making an assumption of, let's say, Power BI is the only tool you know how to use. And as a data expert, it should not just be you being like, tool specific. You should think about what tool will help me get the job done faster. So a good number of times, my everyday, like as a data expert, I don't do data cleaning a lot in Power BI. I rather clean them in SQL because most of my data come from SQL or other platform. But let's just dive into like cleaning in Power BI, just in case you wouldn't need to do it. So first few things is that, so when you when we click on this, so we're going to obviously go to transform data to get to do our cleaning. But let's first of all just explore data. First thing I did was clicked on this data set, and I did click on the table view. So I could see, I'll click on this drop down here, and I can see that like my member ID is actually starting from MBR. To be sure that there's nothing funky, I can just do sort ascending and also sort descending, just to be sure that there's no any other number apart from MBR. So let's say the business already said that all their member ID will start from MBR. So the same thing with subscriber ID. Just wanted to be sure that there are no missing or there are no empty subscriber ID ascending, sort descending. This is just to see like the top number and the low number. So when you look at relationship to subscriber, we see that we have three categories. So that is child, self, and spouse. And that looks about accurate. Then when we come to gender, we start to see something a little bit different. So we see we have gender like empty, people who don't have like information for their gender. We also have people whose gender is female and somebody whose gender is F. From like an assumption or human perspective, you can assume that if the gender is F, then it means it's female. Then if it's M, it means it's male. But your data doesn't think about this as, okay, this is male and female. Like Power BI doesn't see that. Power BI is seeing this as, do we have four gender? And how do I know? If I do a quick analysis, maybe if I jump right ahead of myself and I do something like, let me bring a bar chart. Don't worry, we're going to get into all of this building later, but just want to do something here where we have this and say this. So we see it's kind of saying that we have female, male, male, female. So, and that's not, we want like, male to be together and female together, and maybe do something else with the empty. So that just shows you that we need to clean this data. So date of birth, we do have like date of birth looks about accurate. The same thing, sort ascending, sort descending, just to be sure there's nothing funky in their age. We start to see already from a high ball view, we see that we have age that is minus, and realistically that doesn't make sense, right? And you might, since we have date of birth, we might be able to calculate what the age is as at today. Let's say it depends on what the analysis is, right? Let's say the person is saying, okay, I want the age as at last year or as at 2 years ago. So you kind of factor that in. But let's just assume we want to do the age as at today. But that also means it depends on if we are using this age for our analysis. So we say like age is blank, but we do have their date of birth. So we should be able to just do today minus their date of birth. So enrollment start dates, and so you're going to do that for like enrollment end dates. So, and when the data is empty, it might mean something. When it's not empty, it might not mean another thing. So it could be that enrollment end dates, if it's blank, it means that they are still active. So that means the enrollment end date might be like the end of the year. You just have to ask business and clarify. So plan type. So you're going to go through everything. Also, the risk score here. So risk score is saying there are some that are blank. So maybe you have to ask them, what does it mean by a risk score being blank? Does it mean that the risk score is 0 if it's blank, or we just don't have that information? So smoker flag, yes, no, and empty. Also, is it possible that if they don't have a information, doesn't mean that it means it's also no? So you just got to clarify all of those data points. For chronic condition flag, we see that we have the same thing just like we did for age, y and yes, and we just have to merge that together. So if we go to other data sets to be able to see like if there are any other issues, it could mean that if deductible is empty, it means deductible is 0. Provider dimension provider. So we see here for out of network, we see that some of them is like in network, out of network, looks about good. So if anything that is funky, we're just going to like, clean it for everything. So if we go to for claims, right? We see this is for claims. Yeah, it's saying network flag, it's saying in network, out of network, doctor's note, all of those kind of thing. So we see for claim ID, yeah, this was what I was talking about. Most of the claim is CLM something, but there are some claims that do not have that CLM. So we need to ask ourselves, ask business, or is this correct? Or do you need to add the CLM to it just to be sure it's the right claim ID? Or you are supposed to use this is claim line ID, claim ID. So when we say claim line and claim ID, so a good number of times in healthcare, and this is why I'm trying to explain like the way healthcare analytics data works. A good number of times in healthcare, so when you go to the doctor, and the doctor will probably have one claim, most likely go to the doctor, that's going to be one claim. But that claim can have multiple lines, right? Probably like they requested for maybe like medications, they requested for a bunch of things. So that might have like that's multiple lines. So one claim ID can have 5 claim line ID. So that's kind of, so this is more like a sub under this. So let me do like if I would see something where claim ID 1000. Let me see. You see we do have like 3 claim line from it. So but if I do ideally if I do claim line 3001, I'm supposed to just see just one, right? So but claim line 1000 has multiple claim ID. So I hope that kind of helps just to like give more context. So and you can just clear all filters to get back to like normal. So let's clean what we have right here, right? So one of the things you want to do is you want to go to make sure and home, click on drop down for transform data, and click on transform data. So transform data is the place that you probably like do a lot of your cleaning, and you're going to see these apply steps as you start to make sure, as you start to do the cleaning, you see that things are changing. So want to clean the member data first of all. So for gender, so you would highlight the gender and right click, right? So right click, when you do right click, you're going to see something called replace value. You could also click on get the replace value from here. So a good number of the things you want to do will probably be right here. And I would advise you to just play around what we have here. So like to place value, it says transpose, reverse, just play around and see what is happening based on what you're doing. But just going to click on this, right click and replace value. So when I see replace value, now I want to find any case of like where there's F, and I want to change them to female. But we'll see, this is not exactly what I want to do. So now see what happens. It changed everything from, like, even when it was female, you just change it to F. That's not what I want to happen. So you're like, how do I backstep? So if you press Ctrl Z, you can't go backstep, right? Or maybe Command Z, depending on whatever device you're using. So what you just want to do is to, like, cancel this step that you did right there. Let's say you made a mistake, so just cancel this step. You see, it comes back to normal. On that, and also you could just close out um this page, and it would not save what you're doing, and you could always have like a backup. So what I want to do is, I'm still going to click on replace value, but this time around when I say F and I want to change it to female, I'm going to try to make sure that it looks for the exact, where there's F, match entire cell contents. So where there's F alone, that is when it will replace it to female, and we'll see that would work. So if you do that also for, let's do that also for male. So you're just going to do male, and I'm just going to click on match exact content, and that is all about that. So those that I don't know their gender, we don't know their gender. For the age, we cannot manually start to, like, calculate this by ourselves. We would have to use like a DAX function. We'll not talk about that in this video, or we have to create a new column for it. So like, but we won't talk about that in this particular video. We'll talk about that in a subsequent video, just to take things bit by bit. So we can say, okay, where the end date is null, let's say the business says, like, if the end date is null, then like replace it to like the end of the year. So let me just say no. So that's going to be 12. Let me do 12 31 2020. Let me say 2030. So that is one way. So it's just about like data cleaning, understanding what the business wants. If they say the risk score, if it's null, it means it's 0. Also for chronic flag, I'm going to replace the values. So Y is yes, and just make sure you match exact cell, and N means no. N means no. So I'm just gonna make sure you do this. And so that's the same thing for state. You can also create a new column. One of the things you can also do is to like come here and either like duplicate the column. I could duplicate the column, and maybe I want to do something with it. I could also, I'm going to just delete record, either just remove it or just do from here. So it goes back to normal, like cancel the steps. So that's what I would do for this table. So if I come to dimension provider, I know that I think everything looks about right, but you might just want to double check this in and out of network to be sure that yeah, I actually had to replace this value. So let me cancel out this step. Yeah. And so for here we do have so it's the same thing. So for you most likely have to, so it's going to have you show in, and you're just going to change it to, and so all of them says in. So if I come here and I just, so it's saying in network, out of network. So I want to change all the instance of in to in network. So in underscore capital letter and network, to replace value in a network. Remember to always choose this, and I want to replace all of the points of out to out of network. So that has replace value out of network. Remember to always select this, and that is said about that. Then I think there's also something else that we need to in place, but I will be that about that. So you get the gist. This is just like how you make the replacements for claim line. Let's say they actually say you have to add CLM to this. It might be a little bit hassle, but we'll not do that right now. So see, everything looks about right. So let's just be sure that this claim status is correct. So paid, denying, pending. So we see we do have like paid paid, and that is two different thing in data in a data. So see, says we have denied, paid. So we can either change all of the instance of PAID, that's the small letter one, to like to sound like this, so it's the same. That's one approach. Or what we think is we just do is we just kind of capitalize like everything, right? There's a way to do that. I'm trying to find that here. But easy way. So the way you can just make sure everything here is just all capital letters. So I'm sure when you keep on moving on, and let me try to find that. So there are two ways to do this, right? So if we click on this drop down, we see that we are seeing paid, capital letter, the first one, and the other one is all paid. You can either just make this come here, then like I said, you right click, then click on transform. You can capitalize each word, trim, or whatever it is. It just depends on whatever cleaning that you're doing. If you want to change the type, but right now we want to capitalize each word. We could also do uppercase. So if I do capitalize each word, and I come here again and I click on this drop down, I see that everything is now denied, paid, and pending. So that's one easy way to do this. But if I want to cancel out this step and see like what I have paid. So all I just have to do is just replace value. And one thing is that it might be when you're doing your analysis, that's when you find out that, oh, there are some issues with your data that you have to go clean. Just have to do this, and that is that. So it's still the same, it just depends on any route. So if there are like white spaces, you could do that. So most of your cleaning approach will either come from here, just either the sub, split column by whatever it is, because you find different type of data sets that would need like cleaning. So this is dimension plan. It could also be possible that where the dimension is like deductible is null, it means it is 0. So we can just change that. Maybe that's what it meant. So just replace the value. So null. I'm gonna change it to 0. So I'm just gonna do, and that is that. So I'm just gonna, so if you click on close and apply, you see close and apply close. So close means when we close this, it's not going to show it's not going to apply the changes I've said. Apply means is going to like apply the things I've made, but I'm still going to be able to like make more edits. But close and apply is like, okay, I'm done with my edits. Let me start doing my analysis, because we have to separate view. One of the things you need to know is that, so we have the transformation view, and we also have like this, you have the transformation view and we have like data view. So I need to get to the data view. So you probably notice that two things are opened up. I also want to close and apply. It doesn't mean that I am closing Power BI entirely, and it's going to tell me when it's done. Sometimes it's going to tell you that it's taking a while. Just depends on your data. So that is that about like basic data cleaning. In the next video, we'll talk about like, how to like maybe get the age when we go into like dash function. But let's get into like more stuff, and that is that about it.